Good evening. I call to order the business meeting of the Cave Creek Unified School District Number 93 Governing Board. It's Monday, April 11th, 2022, and it's 6 o'clock. Item 1.1, roll call. All 5 board members are present, and there is a quorum. Present from the cabinet are Dr. Monroe, Dr. Jensen, Ms. Rodriguez, and Mrs. Scott. Item 1.2, formal adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Member Hatcher, I would like to pull out of the action consent items 5.2, 5.4, and 5.7, please.
All righty, thank you. So there's a motion on the table to adopt the agenda as amended. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. The agenda is adopted as amended. Item 1.3, call to fill out forms for call to the public. We do have some, so an admonition will be read in a few minutes. Item 1.4, Pledge of Allegiance. Devin Wiggins will lead us in the pledge.
Yes.
Whenever you're ready.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Devin. Item 1.5, President's Report. There's been a lot going on recently. So I attended the Teacher of the Year celebration, and that was excellent. It was formal, sophisticated, well-deserved for these teachers. And I just want to read their names. Tracy Clay from Cactus Shadows, Jessica Cresswell from Horseshoe Trails, Desiree D'Ambrosi from Sonoran Trails. Now this last name, I hope I get it semi-correct. Danielle Mikolaisen, Cindy Miner, who won the Teacher of the Year, Colleen Neiman from Lone Mountain, and Susan Spigarelli from Black Mountain. Cindy is from Desert Willow. So that was a lovely event for our teachers. My husband and I attended Rock the District. That was really neat to see the kids performing. I attended the Excellent Committee meeting just as an observer. The Cactus Shadows Career Fair, which was really, really good too. The business breakfast this morning, that was excellent. The turnout was fantastic, a lot of networking, and we were able to showcase what the district does. And then on Wednesday, I will be meeting with Representative Michelle Udall, who is the chairman of the House Education Committee, and Steve Kaiser, who is LD 15's rep and he's on the Appropriations Subcommittee on Education. I've contacted some of the legislators, and these two have responded, and so they're willing to talk about funding for the district, and Dr. Monroe and Ms. Rodriguez will also meet me down at the Capitol, and hopefully we can sort of begin to crack that nut for funding for the district. And that's my report. Board?
I'll jump in here and say that, there was a lot going on. It seems like it's been a long time, too. Did go to the Excellence Committee as an observer. That was very interesting, so thank you for that. Back in March, went to the Employee of the Month lunch, or breakfast, so that was really good. I had not been able to do that since back in 2011 when I was an Employee of the Month, so that was cool. And then right after that, went from there to visit a couple schools. This is what I do on my spring break now. I get to come around and visit the schools here. So I got to go to Sonoran Trails. Thank you, Ms. Sereno, for touring me around there. I actually went into my old room, which was always a surreal experience. But I did get to spend some time in Mr. Langley's classroom while they were working on a second step lesson of conflict resolution. It was an incredible time to talk to the kids. There was a big, huge discussion going on, and it was really cool because they said that it's different for them because it's not reading, writing, math. It helps them, how did this one kid say it? Just being able to handle our day-to-day lives with our friends because everybody has conflict. I thought that was great. And then from there we went to Horseshoe Trails. Again, Mr. Pettinato showed me around, made me feel welcome, as did all the teachers. So thank you for all of that. Really appreciate that.
I too got to attend the business partner breakfast this morning. What an amazing turnout. I was kind of shocked when I walked into that room and the tables were full. So that was impressive. Got to network and see a lot of local businesses there. I'm looking forward to the Jungle Book put on by Black Mountain Elementary on Wednesday night. And there will be a barbecue before that, so that should be fun. Attend and cheer on some friends' kiddos. And then it just seems like the calendar's full for the next 5 weeks. I think there's at least a few events every week, so it's an exciting time to wrap up the school year.
I'll go back to middle of March. I was able to attend the Future Kindergarten Day at Lone Mountain Elementary, and they were holding that in the kindergarten rooms and then over in the STEM lab, and that was a hoot. Those kids were having fun, and they got to take home a sign for their yard that said Class of 2035. Wow. Ay, ay, ay. But thanks to Miss Hill for having me in for that. And then I poked my head into the book fair. PTO was winding up the book fair for that week, and that book fair is always a fun event. I also got to attend the Teacher of the Year awards dinner 2 weeks ago. That was a great event, and all those teachers were well-deserved for their awards. Also attended the Cactus Shadows College and Career Fair. They held that out on the quad in the morning on Wednesday, which was their half day. And that was neat to see I think we had 30 different tables there of different colleges and businesses, police, fire, all the military was there. So really gave the seniors a chance to look around and maybe get some ideas for soon to be their future. And then, of course, this morning was our business partners breakfast, which I attended. Again, like Member Walker said, a great event, and it was packed. It was definitely a full house. We're going to have to add some more tables next year. And then I also got to attend the Excellence Committee meeting a couple weeks ago. So that was an interesting meeting to sit in on. So that's it for me.
I guess I should just say ditto. I attended the Teacher of the Year celebration, and thank you and congratulations to our teachers who were recognized, and thank you and congratulations to all of our teachers for all you do. We can't recognize everyone at that celebration, but every single one of our teachers is very deserving. Also, I was at the Excellence Committee, and hats off to all of the hard work they've done. It's very necessary, and I appreciate the commitment everybody's done. And I also was at the Cactus Shadows Career Fair, and I learned a few things. You don't ever want to be in one of those vans that picks up prisoners. It's not the place to be, although it was a little concerning. One of the students walked out and said, "Hey, that was kind of comfortable." So I'm not sure who that kid was, but parents, you might want to watch your kids. Anyway, as Brianna said, there is a lot coming up, and so I'm looking forward to attending several more events.
Thank you. 1.7, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Monroe.
President Hatcher, members of the board, state testing's underway at all of our 8 schools, and I'd like to read a little bit about kind of what's happening with that. Cactus Shadows High School has completed their AZ-SCI and the ACT. I'd like to thank Debbie Dowd, Christy Pine for their assistance in the organization and planning of these state-mandated tests. With 2 tests under their belt, the Falcon team will only now need to complete the ACT Aspire, and that will be for the freshmen, the week of April 18th. Sonoran Trail started the AZ-SCI test, that's for science, with their 8th graders, as well as the AASA writing portion, I guess it's said ASA, I'm not sure, of the ELA test. All students will take that test for ELA and Math, Part 1 and Part 2, the week of April the 18th. Our online school, the Academy of Excellence, is bringing in their online students in grades 3 through 9 and 11 throughout the month of April to complete state testing using space at DSA as well as the district office. and our elementary schools. We're very fortunate to have fabulous site testing coordinators who, along with the principals, had developed testing schedules to meet their needs and resources. Shout out to Michelle Adair, Lori Johnston, Michelle Malona, Alyssa Gould, and Brian Rinderknecht. They all deserve accolades for their efforts in making organizing, training, problem solving, troubleshooting through the test at these schools. I'd be remiss if I did not mention our technology team that have assured that our devices have the required software that they need and deployed at each site for testing. Mark Schoenberger, our network engineer, ensured the testing program was pushed out to all the machines. At the sites, Sky Watson, Charlie Stahl, Daniel Chupe, Richard McDermott, and Sean McNulty. Lastly, I'd like to thank our students and our families, parents. Thank you for making sure students get a good night's sleep, sending them with words of encouragement. Students, we know state testing can be stressful, but we believe in you and what you can accomplish, and we appreciate our students giving it their best effort. I'm really excited to announce that Cave Creek Unified School District community has voted our district the best of 2022 North Valley for the third year in a row. I'd like to thank the community for entrusting us with your most precious resource, your children. I'd like to also congratulate the Cactus Shadows High School student newspaper, the CS Press. They won a gold crown from Columbia Scholastic Press Association. The CS Press, just so you're aware, is one of only 10 high school newspapers in the country to receive this award, and the only high school in Arizona to receive the award. They have received 12 Crown Awards, if I'm counting right, 8 gold and 4 silver over the past 15 years. They've also earned the Pacemaker Award. This is, in essence, the Pulitzer Prize of high school journalism. Congratulations to these students for their work. I'd like to just read their names: Philip Tate and Claire Gear, David Lane, Max Hancock, Haley Dent, Hudson Ellis and Owen Taylor, Judy Silva, Jonathan Gear, Gianna Lazaro, Paul Werns, Caitlin Pinkham, Livia Love. If I mispronounce the name, I apologize. Jaden Lee, Sarah Love, Cooper Lake, and I'd like to congratulate the staff members, Chris Alexander, Will Donegan, Jacob Gullitz, Jordan Kern, and the advisors, Mrs. Hart and Mr. Adamson. I'd like to congratulate Kai Trujillo. Kai Trujillo is a 5th grader at Horseshoe Trails Elementary. He's a gymnast. He scored 11.25 on the rings and is the Arizona State champion for his age group. He qualified to compete at the regionals and is an Arizona All-Star team member. He'll represent Arizona and Horseshoe Trails, Stallion Strong, right, Mr. Pettinato, at regionals and compete against gymnasts from California, Nevada, and Hawaii. Each spring, the Congressional Institute sponsors a nationwide high school visual art competition to recognize and encourage artistic talent in the nation and in each congressional district. Since this competition began in 1982, more than 650,000 high school students have participated. Students submit entries to the representative's office, and panels of district artists select the winning entries. Winners are recognized both in their district and at an annual award ceremony in Washington, D.C. 3 of our Cactus Shadows High School students have been entered in the 2022 Congressional Art Competition. Ellie Parker, who's in 9th grade, Cagney Boudreau in 9th grade, and Cheryl Q, who's also in 9th grade. Iona Moffett is in 9th grade as well. Mrs. Parsons will be delivering the 4 framed art pieces to the Scottsdale Artist School on April the 22nd, and the winners will be announced at the exhibition on April the 30th. As has been mentioned by the board, we congratulate our Cave Creek Teachers of the Year. There was one recognized from each school. Cindy Miner from Desert Willow will go on to compete for the Arizona Education Foundation Teacher of the Year, representing our district. I would like to recognize the winners that have been mentioned by Member Busby, Member Brown, and a few others. Tracy Clay from our Cactus Shadows High School, Jessica Cresswell from Horseshoe Trails, Desiree D'Ambrosi from Sonoran Trails, Danielle Mialishan from DSA from Desert Sun, Colleen Naiman from Lone Mountain, and Susan Spigarelli from Black Mountain. I'd like to thank the sponsors of the event. We had a wonderful Teacher of the Year dinner event just last week, sponsored by the Cave Creek Education Foundation, 1GPA, SPS Plus Architects, Sunland Asphalt, and GCON. As was mentioned this morning, we held our third business partner breakfast. We counted 80-plus people in the room, and Member Brown is right, we'll need some extra tables. This was the third and final one for this year. It allows us to showcase our programs. It allows us to network with business partners and nonprofits, and we'll continue to plan these into next year. If you weren't familiar, it is Bike Week. It was Bike Week in this area. However, there's another event that overshadowed Bike Week called Rock the District. I don't know if it overshadowed, but we had Rock the District at Harold's on April the 2nd. Sure, parking may have been a little difficult to navigate during that time, but we had a wonderful event with our student bands, our student performers performing on stage in the back lot at Harold's. This is sponsored by our foundation, and the foundation is a registered Arizona nonprofit and supports our mission. It's led by parents and community members, and it's committed to maintaining the excellence within our schools, and they've donated more than $200,000 to our classrooms through teacher grants. We are still totaling up, but we may have made $42,000 to $43,000 on the Rock the District event. So we appreciate all the sponsors and all those who attended. I'd like to congratulate the 90 students that we honored at the Celebration of Art that was held last week at the Fine Arts Center. This was in conjunction with the Sonoran Arts League. There were 90 art students throughout our district in grades K 3rd through 12 that were honored with a bag of art supplies and a certificate that recognized them as having an outstanding student piece of art. Our one outstanding senior from Cactus Shadows, Sydney Terpstra, was awarded the Jeff Cross Memorial Bell. The student artwork will be on display at the Joan R. Lincoln Gallery in the Fine Arts Center through May the 10th, when it will be returned to the students. Our Education Community Services Department facilitated the exhibit and the award ceremony. Lastly, last week we had a wonderful Cactus Shadows High School College and Career Expo held on the campus in the Quad, as mentioned. Let me just list a few of those that were in attendance. University of Alabama, Orcutt Winslow, Six Flags Hurricane Harbor, Desert Foothills YMCA, the Fairmont Scottsdale Princess, Sunt Construction, Arizona Army National Guard, Abrazo, Tenet Health, Grand Canyon University, University Technical Institute, Scottsdale Police Department, U of A, University of Arizona, VIP Dental Assisting Academy, Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, FDIM, the U.S. Air Force, the Four Seasons Resort, Dunn Edwards Paints, U.S. Navy, U.S. Army, Paradise Valley Community College, EVIT, Keswick Communications, the U.S. Secret Service, and Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. We'll continue to do this event into the future to help expose our high schoolers to careers, opportunities, part-time jobs, and we'll look to expand that into the future. And that is my report.
Thank you. What's going on? Number 2, presentation of awards for schools and departments. 2.1, Exceptional Student Services Excellence Awards, presented by Dr. Court Monroe and Mr. Michael Karpinski.
Okay, Mr. Karpinski, come on up. We'd like to recognize a few people through our Exceptional Student Services Division, and I appreciate Mr. Karpinski, our director, being up here with us. So I'll call your name. I'll have you come to the front. We're going to read something that's we want you to feel special. It might embarrass you, but it's going to be something great about you. So first, we'd like to call up Amaya Cocadriley. Cocadriley. Okay, come on up. How about a round of applause? I'm tongue-tied here. Okay, stand here with us. Let me read to you about Amaya. She's an amazing parent and an advocate for our PALS classrooms at Lone Mountain Elementary. This year, she has supported both of our classrooms with sensory-friendly and student-centered classroom parties so that our exceptional students do not miss out on any part of the elementary school experience. Amaya has also partnered with the PTO at Lone Mountain to make sure that all our students are included in the PTO-sponsored event. For example, at the Trunk or Treat event, car trunks were opened early so the PAL students could have a less crowded event to trick or treat at. All cars also provided sensory-friendly items since many of the students have food allergies. The Sweetheart Dance opened earlier to provide a less crowded dance floor and softer music so that the students and their families could be a part of the Lone Mountain Fun. Amaya is not only looking for ways to include the exceptional students, but to also teach our families and other Lone Mountain students how and why some of the exceptional students learn and behave differently. Her current plan is to host an Everybody Day at Lone Mountain, where our students can experience what it is like to have visual impairments, physical impairments, sensory experiences, and live life through the eyes of a student with exceptional needs. Amaya truly is a blessing to Lone Mountain, and we're lucky to have her, her husband, and her son Angelo on our campus. Congratulations. Okay, Mrs. Gigi Powers, come on up. Gigi Powers has worked for Cave Creek Unified School District for the last 18 years. She's been a lifesaver to the speech and language-related service team this school year as the SLPA. Gigi has been extremely flexible with helping to support all of her teammates across all of the campuses this year. Gigi is always positive and willing to go the extra mile. She exceeds her responsibilities as a speech-language pathologist assistant. Gigi truly embodies the one-team mentality. She has a great relationship with her students, teachers, and parents. The speech-language pathologists fully respect her clinical expertise and knowledge in the field. Exceptional Student Services is honored and privileged to have Gigi on the staff. Congratulations. All right, our student we'd like to recognize is Devin Wiggins. Come on down, Devin. Let me read to you about this tremendous young man. He's a senior at Cactus Shadows High School. He exemplifies the mission and vision of the Cave Creek Unified School District. Devin is an outstanding student and an active member of the school community. He has played an active role in helping Cactus Shadows High School continue to be a unified champion school by participating and performing in unified dance, representing Cactus Shadows as a student leader in the 2022 Special Olympic Arizona Youth Leadership Summit, and being a Special Olympic basketball athlete. It's basketball, right? Tall. Devin has been part of Falcon Skills, a program within the Youth Transition Program that provides vocational support. All of Devin's supervisors state he is a good communicator, dedicated worker, always willing to do whatever is asked of him. Devin is passionate about the arts. If you went to Mamma Mia, you know, because he was great. He loves performing, and he has been an active member of the theater company. He's not only an honor student in theater performance, but has done an amazing job starring in Newsies, Treasure Island, and most recently, Mamma Mia. Congratulations, Devin.
All righty, thank you. Number 3, public comments. Item 3.1, call to the public. So let me get the admonition out. Okay, according to ARS number 38-431.01H, governing board members may not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public. The only allowable responses a governing board member may make are, number 1, board member may respond if there is direct criticism of the board member. Number 2, board member may direct staff to look into a matter. Or number 3, board member can ask to have this item placed on a future agenda. Speakers need to be mindful of what they say when presenting to the board. Inappropriate comments could be considered slanderous. And each speaker will have 3 minutes. We have Marla Riney as our first speaker.
Good evening, governing. Is this on? It's not on? There we go. Okay. Good evening, governing board and cabinet. My name is Marla Riney. I'm an engaged parent of a second grader in the French immersion program at Desert Sun Academy. I've been involved with the PTO, the Political Action Committee for the bond, the Strategic Planning Committee, and now chair of the Excellence Committee. I'm a licensed social worker who's previously worked in education, and I just want to start by thanking you all for your service and commitment to CCUSD. It's appreciated more than words can say. I am speaking tonight in favor of extending Dr. Monroe's contract as superintendent. As you are aware, we are in unprecedented times full of uncertainties. The educational community throughout the nation is seeing high numbers of resignations, including here in CCUSD. Employees do not feel appreciated for their expertise, their commitment, their sacrifice, or their dedication to our children. More than ever, our community needs strong, consistent leadership to build the needed foundation and stability that will lead CCUSD into the future. Dr. Monroe has proven he is the right leader to do just that. When he joined CCUSD, he was faced with challenges none of us could have anticipated. The district had many financial concerns, a pandemic that no one was prepared for, swirls of conspiracies and half-truths, and losing a bond election by only 751 votes out of over 22,000 casted, all while facing a divisive political environment that at times is not supportive of public education, which is the cornerstone of our nation. To be honest, Dr. Monroe was not who I would have selected during that selection process, but I was open to seeing what he could bring to the district when the board selected him as superintendent. And Dr. Monroe brings commitment, passion, drive, and empathy each and every day. He is aware he cannot please everyone, so he remains focused on the goals of maintaining CCUSD's reputation. Of course, it moves on me, CCU's reputation for excellence and investing himself in our staff and children. In my opinion, Dr. Monroe should be a role model for all of us. Our community needs to listen more and talk less, assume positive intent, focus on the whole, not just ourselves, and be the change, be the solution together. These are values I teach my child, and I hope I'm raising her in a community where she can identify this in others. Thank you for your time this evening, and thank you for considering to extend Dr. Monroe's contract.
Thank you. The next speaker, Amaya Cocadriley. Cocadriley. Yeah, thank you.
Greetings. With a name like that, I'm sort of used to this stumble, so no worries. So allow me to just reintroduce myself. My name is Amaya Cocadriley, and I am, as you heard before, the Lone Mountain Elementary School PALS class mom. I've been doing it for 2.5 years. During that time, and by the way, my son Angelo is part of the PALS 4th grade. And during my time and my tenure as the PALS class mom, I've put together many events, as you heard earlier, and celebrations, and they're geared toward our PALS kids. But not only our PALS kids, but our PALS parents, inviting them, having them attend so that their kids can feel comfort and enjoyment, and so that their parents can actually see their kids being kids for even a brief moment. I come to you today because we have a new idea, this Everybody Day, and I want to ask the school board to consider making this a district-wide day that's celebrated beginning next year. We are going to do our first one this May, thanks to Principal Hill, who has been an infinitely strong supporter of PALS, PALS teachers, PALS kids, PALS parents, and this crazy one in front of you. I really believe in this because oftentimes we get caught up in the legalities of an IEP or the legalities of terminology to classify our children, to even describe our parents and their involvement. That's not what this is about. What this is about community and helping our children and our PALS parents to feel a part of the community, but also for this community to feel that the pals, kids, and parents are community with them. So Everybody Day will do this. In our first inaugural one this May at Lone Mountain Elementary School, we intend to do a little education throughout our classrooms and general education so that people begin to learn what is it like for our kids to learn what is it like to live with a disability where you perhaps don't have full verbal access to all your words, or perhaps you can't see, or perhaps you can't hear. What is that like, a day in the life? So to do a special little in-service for our kiddos in the morning. We are also designing special t-shirts that will say, Celebrate Everybody Day on the front, and on the back, Be a Pal to Pals. In the afternoon, we are going to be doing sign-ups for our gen ed kids prior to this day to go into the PALS classroom and join in with a PALS friend and see what their world is like. So I ask this, please consider this as something that we as a whole district can celebrate to celebrate our PALS kids. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, Jaylene Griffin.
I will apologize in advance on this topic. I do not usually have this full of room. So, I'm speaking out tonight to talk about Middle School Sonoran Trails Club that I was made aware of. It's called Gay Straight Alliance Club, and it's sponsored by the 8th grade brand new school counselor, Kelly Love. I went to the website and I looked at the club's description. It says, GSA clubs are student-run, now we're talking middle school, organizations that unite LGBTQ plus and allied youth to build community, provides a safe space, and talk about various issues impacting them at school. I'd say that's soft word for grooming, me personally. Note, students are running these. This is middle school minors, 12, maybe 11, 12, 13-year-olds. How do they run a club on that kind of topic? What's their agenda? Are they posted? Who is truly running this club? Tell me, at your age, 12, 13, you would run a club like that on that topic? Who speaks to these children? Are their parents aware of who is speaking to these children on what topics? I won't go into what now because there's minors in the room right now. Are parents aware of these topics? How can any 12-year-old try to figure out what this means gender-wise? Even adults struggle with this. These are kids. There are still many times at this young and tender age that they're trying to navigate this world. They're very open to suggestions and peer pressure. A friend says, oh, that's okay, come to this club. We'll figure it out. 12 and 13-year-olds. One friend tells another, and it goes on so forth from there. Who is the school counselor who's not trained in this subject for young children, and also the principal to allow this to go on? This should be a discussion group within the parents to realize if this club should even continue. If this child has issues, they should be encouraged to seek a true professional, trusted family member, church members outside of school. This is a parent's decision to discuss sexual topics that can seriously affect, and this is a serious topic, that can affect and impact their life for their future, depending on what, guidance they follow. Okay? Someone may say, there are other clubs, chess, cheer, choir, honor society. We all had those growing up. We never had a sexual club. I'm sorry, but I strongly believe these are government-run schools. This can be held outside of the school. It can be a club outside of the school. I'm a taxpayer. I don't know where the other parents are on this subject, are they even aware of this club, but not in junior high. I'm not even thrilled about it in high school. But this is a young age to be talking about a very serious topic. It's in the news, and I don't think this is an appropriate place to be after school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, Kathleen Thorius. I don't think I said that properly.
Board members, I do believe our community would benefit from more time to achieve stability and growth under Dr. Monroe's superintendency, and I support a contract extension. However, many of the critiques I've heard about Dr. Monroe reflect context affecting all of public education, decades of coordinated political strategies to dismantle public schools towards systems of profit, culminating in this socio-political moment in time. Dropping enrollment and cut programs is a critique I've heard. What about school choice and voucher programs that originated as backlash to the desegregation of public schools after Brown versus the Board of Education, and continue to resegregate our schools while reallocating public funds to private entities? What about our community's vote on the bond? If we want to increase enrollment, let's pass a bond and an override so we can reinstate a full slate of academic and extracurricular programming, increase teacher salaries, and reduce class sizes. Concerns about bullying and student behavior? What about national and local attacks on social-emotional approaches to educating the whole child? Mass hysteria over the straw man argument of critical race theory, and legislative attempts to erase and shame LGBT youth. If we want tolerant and just schools, let's treat each other civilly, seek to understand those who are different from us, and work towards safe, welcoming, representative school communities. Concerns about educator resignation. What about federal and state legislation that grossly underfunds public schools while increasing allocations to voucher programs? Look at the proliferation of legislation built on indignant mistrust of our educators for the purposes of winning elections and reallocating public resources into private pocketbooks. How about we communicate directly, openly, respectfully, and honestly about and with our educators and our leaders, and become aware of how state appropriations continue to put Arizona in nearly last place for per pupil expenditures, special education funding, and teacher salaries. All these things considered, if your contract is extended, Dr. Monroe, I ask you to prioritize improving district culture in ways that authentically value teacher, administrator, and student contributions and well-being. I ask you more actively respond to those who fully support our public education institutions through democratic participation at local, state, and federal levels. I ask you to unequivocally stand for equitable educational opportunities, inclusive and diverse education settings, and outstanding academic and social outcomes, rather than walk a path of least resistance due to pressure from those who protest public education, serving all who live among us. And I ask you to take a public stance against misinformation, demonstrate stronger leadership and communication in response, and protect our educators and students from undue harms, including LGBTQ students, educators, and families who are silenced and marginalized in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Jennifer Forbes. Sorry. Oh, Jennifer Forbes.
Hi, I'm here to speak in support of extending Dr. Monroe's contract. I will say that I think this time last year I felt very different. We had just made a lot of changes, a lot of layoffs, a lot of program changes. I was not in support of many of those changes. I think from where I stand today, I've had more time to get to know Dr. Monroe, work with him on different committees. I've been more involved in the district, mostly because I wasn't happy with what was happening in the district. But I will say that I think where we're going is a path that's better. And I would like the board to ask themselves, if we do not choose to extend Dr. Monroe's contract, what is the alternative? I think the school district needs to really focus on getting the proper funding, on passing a bond or an override, and how are you going to bring someone in who can do that better than Dr. Monroe has so far? He seemed to be very focused on that, and I think there's always room for improvement, but we certainly need to look at the job market today, where people are at, where our teachers are at, and I don't believe it's in the best interest of the school district to do anything other than extend his contract at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Brian Bunkers.
President Hatcher, Vice President Fortney, members of the governing board, Dr. Monroe, Dr. Jensen, Mrs. Scotto, Mrs. Scott, and Ms. Rodriguez. Thank you for allowing me the time here. I'm asking you to extend Dr. Monroe's contract. As previously stated, there's been some difficult decisions that have had to have been made, and now we're currently on the correct trajectory on where we need to be going as a district to maintain our programs and create additional programs as well. I'm not sure how many people were here back when we went to half-day kindergarten. That was a difficult, unpopular decision, and we found a way to go back to full-time kindergarten. So the decisions that have had to have been made have been very difficult, and with that, I know that Dr. Monroe is leading us on the correct path to get back to where we need to be to maintain and increase our students here, and as well as support our teachers and continue to attract the teachers that we need to have in our district. So with that, I ask you to extend his contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 4, presentations, information reports. 4.1, Superintendent's Student Cadre, presented by Dr. Court Monroe and Mrs. Nancy Scott.
President Hatcher, members of the board, I just have a few slides to show you tonight. I'm really proud to have a lot of our Cactus Shadows High School students here with us from the Cadre. These students, parents, you should be very proud of their intelligence, their maturity, and their leadership, wanting to play a role in making the high school better, and I really appreciate them. So this is just a few slides to kind of highlight our superintendent student cadre. So how this fits within our strategic plan is a few of our priorities you see highlighted here are student success and safe culture, environment, and culture. If you look up at our mission, one of the clauses there on the third line, it says, we want students and educators to be empowered to make a difference. And I'm proud to say that these students make a difference at the high school by the example that they are as leaders, whether it's formal or informal. And these students are on the right trajectory with regards to public service and leadership to be very, very successful. And our overall goal in this community and this district is student success. Here's a picture of our student cadre. It consists of freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors. This was early on in the year. There's Mrs. Barella, our high school principal, and I believe Mrs. Scott probably snapped this picture at the beginning of the year. And there's a lot of students that weren't here for this session to make that picture. But how this works, just so you're aware, is at the end of every school year, we invite all the incoming freshmen, any of the Cactus Shadows High School students that want to participate in this group. They're also reminded during the first few weeks of school. Students that participate in this group agree to have open-minded conversations about bettering our high school experience, and we really value the student voice as a part of that. They fill out an application and ask them to share why they're interested in the cadre, what items they'd like to discuss regarding Cactus Shadows High School and our school district. And students are also given service learning credit for the Superintendent's Challenge, which some of them are a part of. So just a few topics that we've discussed this year. We have a monthly meeting, and parents, that is on your students' own time after school. So time away from their part-time jobs, their sports, or their clubs. They come and they spend that time with Mrs. Barella, Mrs. Scott, and I. And you can see Mr. Dolezal was at various of these meetings. Mrs. Rodriguez came. We talked about our ESSER 3 funds. Those are the funds from the federal government that have been provided to us through COVID. We were interested in the students' input on that. We talked about the bond that was on the ballot with the students to educate them. Yes, we talked about the condition of Cactus Shadows High School restrooms. That is important, and the students know exactly what I'm talking about. Their input is invaluable. Sometimes we have a situation at the high school where just a few can often ruin it for the many. And so we had some really rich discussions. We involved the students when we talked about future school calendars. And it was kind of funny. Some of the seniors were kind of joking with me. They were like, Dr. Monroe, where was this 2 or 3 years ago, this calendar? Because we're leaving and now the calendar is better. We did a student survey to our high schoolers all the way down to 6th grade about different areas of interest for the students. That way we can plan our programs around those. And so we talked about that and what were some of the students, as they looked at the data and the results, what was some of their input some epiphanies and insights into what that data look like and how we should plan our programs in this district. And yes, we talked about dress code, and we talked about sweep, and we looked at antiquated language in some of our handbooks, and all the input that the students gave us did not fall on deaf ears. It does not fall on deaf ears. And as I mentioned, I appreciate the maturity, the candor, and the input of these kids. So what I'd like to do now is ask Mrs. Barella and ask Mrs. Scott to come up to the front. And I'm going to read their names. And students, I'd like you to come up to the front. We're going to line you up. And then at the end of reading their names, governing board, I'd love for us to step down off on the dais and get a picture with these amazing students. So some of our seniors, Hannah Cillier, come on up. Evelyn Higby. Libby Horde. And Andy Retz. This is our class of 2022 right here, these four individuals. So, okay, girls, stay right there. I'm going to call up the juniors. Caitlin Bunkers, come on up, Kate. Vanessa Cordova. Vanessa, is it Cordova? Is that how you say it? Okay. When I lived in Argentina, we said Cordoba. So that's the original way. All right, Caitlin Cross. Casey and Kennedy Keller. Nelson Lee. Anna E. Lewis. Lainey McMillan. And Katie McIvelry. Okay, our sophomores, Sophia Schneider. Not here. Alexandra Abrams. Ross McGivelry. And Xander Simmons. And our freshmen, come on up. Eric Hughes. Vincent Luna. And Jack Ryan. All right, so Nancy and Sarah, do you guys want to try and crunch in here? And if we can find a way to maybe stand in the back and get a picture?
Should we just stand here? Should we just stand here?
Well, let's see what the photographer says.
Oops. All righty. 4.2, Finance Update, presented by Ms. Marcy Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. This evening, every meeting I want to provide information to you about the status of the finance, and that may be of the district, that may be of the state, that may be of the nation, reports that we have. So this evening, what I want to share with you is to talk to you a little bit about this SB 1269 that you've all been hearing about in the news. So Mark's going to cue up a presentation here for me. So now we know in politics in Arizona, things move really fast. So there's even been changes. There's been some rumors that this may be dead on arrival when it gets to the actual vote. But I just want to share a little bit of information about what it means to Cave Creek if this were to pass. So it's called the 1269 Strike Everything Amendment on School Finance Revisions. So as we all know, we've talked about school finance formulas and how antiquated they are and how they need to be reformed and updated. So we're in support of having those conversations. The problem with 1269 is that there was no school district support or conversation even had. We were not included at the table when they were developing this bill. So we've got some concerns about some of the things that are not in the bill. And one of the things that we noticed right away is that charter schools benefit more than school districts. So that was one of the key things that made when numbers came out from the Joint Legislative Budget Committee, they showed that there were winners and losers, and some of the school districts won, some of the school districts lost, some of them broke even, and they thought that that might just be a carrot for some people to say, oh, well, let's go ahead and support it. But we need to be at the table because there's things that need to be in there that affect school districts that weren't included. So they put this opt-in charter school formula option out there, thinking that districts like Cave Creek would say, oh yeah, I'm all about that, because we can't pass an M&O override. We can't pass a bond here. It's been several years that we've tried, and this was written for those types of districts. One of the things that's in there is that you have to be out of debt, paying off your bonds, within 4 years. Well, unfortunately, Cave Creek is not going to have theirs paid off till 2030, which means we have 8 years. So we wouldn't qualify for the opt-in if we even were to support that. So that would require the governing board to say, yes, we want to opt in, and then we would have to go out to our voters and have our voters say, yes, we want to opt in. So this would be something that would increase our qualifying tax rate, which means our voters would pay more in taxes. We know that that's been a challenge for our override in our bonds, so I'm not sure that they would even allow us to opt in if we could. So that was one of the parts of the bill. This is what, if you opt in, you would give up. So you'd give up all rights that you had right now as a district, and you would look strictly like a charter school. So you'd give up transportation funding, bonds, building renewal money, which this district relies on quite heavily because of some of the stage of our older buildings. The School Facilities Board provides a lot of support for our district in that way. So these were things that we would give up. That building renewal grants is a concern that I would have if we even had that conversation. So here's some of those outstanding issues that I was talking about. Here's some of the things that we as districts would like to see included in any type of school finance reform. So we'd like to see that constitutional aggregate expenditure limit changed, eliminated, something modified so that we don't have to go back to the legislature every year from now on, which it appears to be based on the classroom site fund now being included in that, to say, hey, can we spend the money you approved us to spend? You know, that was quite stressful for all of us, right? I mean, that was quite, and then they approved it, and we were very thankful that they did, but we don't want to have to go through that every year. Let's get that fixed. Special education funding, the special education funds that we do receive from the state do not cover the expenses that we have to educate our special education students. Capital funding lawsuit, there's still that inequity out there about the state helping us to repair and replace and renew our buildings when they age. Poverty and opportunity weight, this is something that a lot of other schools in Arizona experience, where there's that differentiation between students who come to you that can't even speak English or come from low socioeconomical households, and they need a little bit more of an oomph, a little bit more support. So those districts are asking for that poverty. Address the Prop 123 triggers. That again is kind of like classroom site fund. There's some things in there that are going to go away that legislatures need to protect for that funding. Transportation. How about we fund what transportation actually costs? And so we have shortage of drivers, and our buses need to be replaced. There's things that transportation. M&O override amounts. This is something that I hope one day Cave Creek will have the conversation about, and how it's impacted by the M&O overrides and the restrictions in that. Transferring costs from local taxpayers, will estate, and so you can just kind of read the economic downturns, giving more power to the state and more authority to the state to authorize funding for us, and the triggers that increase. We know what happens when you put all of those eggs in the state basket, where they take away things like Proposition 301 money, control over voter protection, and they put it in the legislature's hands. Those are some concerns that we have. So that said, I'm excited about going down to the legislature to have those conversations with President Hatcher and Dr. Monroe. When we talk about how this would actually, how Cave Creek would benefit, as I said, we're not eligible for the opt-in. And then there's been a few different calculations out there as far as how that new formula would impact us. And one of the most credible sources that we have has done the calculation that it would be about $2 less per pupil if they enacted the new thing. One of the things that they take away from us is the teacher experience index that we have, that's added on to our base level, that we would have to go without. So that is the information I had to share with you this evening. Is there any questions?
I didn't have a question, but I did want to just mention that you did touch on the fact that the special education funding is inadequate. And it just needs to be known that by law, they have to pay for that stuff. So it ends up coming out of other funds. So everybody loses in that situation. So I just kind of want to make that point well known.
Yes, well said. Thank you.
Is this bill taking away basically all the buckets and kind of pouring it into just one lump sum, and then the district is responsible for using it in the different areas?
Member Busby, members of the board, this is not putting it all in one lump sum. No, it's just tweaking some of the little components that we have, like teacher experience index and the transportation weight level and the base level and what our local taxpayers are responsible for and what the state is responsible for. So it's just kind of shifting things around a little bit. It's not really doing any major reform.
When on one of the slides you mentioned about how poverty and poverty and the opportunity weight. Will this affect federal funding? Because a lot of those schools that have students that fall into that category, they get a lot of federal funding. So is this going to have a negative impact on federal dollars to those districts?
Member Busby, members of the board, I do not believe so. What this will do is right now, like our special education students, they have a little bit more of a weight, so maybe a student that would be a 1 FTE, they have special needs, they'd be a 4 FTE.
Okay.
This would be the same kind of approach that they would take. They would just add on an additional weight for that student, and it would not affect funding for the federal government.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add, President Hatcher, members of the board, in my view, it's a little short-sighted for the success of Cave Creek, short-term and long-term. You know, we went on a spring break and we came back and all of a sudden we're talking about the funding formula. We've been asking for this for a long time. In fact, this formula has been in place since 1980. Think about how much life has changed and inflation, and charter schools have popped up since 1980. So I think you'd see education advocates saying over the years, we need to talk about education, the finance, the funding formula, and then all of a sudden, kind of last minute, it catches a lot of us superintendents off guard that it was even brought up. And we want to have the conversation. We were not involved in the conversation, and we're still trying, Marcy and I are still trying to sift through projections, and there's 3 or 4 groups that have, this is what this means and this is what that doesn't mean. And the reason I tell you this is fundamentally I have a problem with that approach. There has been no slow play to it. It came from around the corner without anybody seeing it. And these are significant heavyweight decisions to be made in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And so I'm not sure how much farther the bill will go, but there's potentially, as you can tell, a lot of implications, things that we could lose in this district, and potentially some things that we could gain. But it certainly would be nice to have 3 months to talk with people about this as opposed to 2.5 weeks for such a radical change. So we'll see. We're watching this very closely. We'll be talking to legislators on Wednesday to hear more about this, but I know this was in the newspapers quite a bit, and it's been dominating headlines for a week or two, so we wanted to make sure the board was in the loop of what it's about.
And I'll be curious to see, they've put out on the news recently that the state now has about $5 billion surplus, and I think 3 point something of that is a one-time funding or something. Is not steady funding. So I will be very curious to see what representatives and senators will say in regard to education funding with some of those monies.
Yeah, that's a very good point, President Hatcher. And one thing that's always on my mind, the board is aware, is the $8 to $9 million that our own taxpayers pay that do not fund our school district, but they go due to the equalization tax to other school districts. And so we'll talk with our legislators about that. And can there be a change or a raise or a lowering that where we can keep our local taxpayer money here with those who pay it? Because right now that money goes right out of Cave Creek to other districts in the state. So I'll be interested to see as we advocate and talk about that. Does that impact any of these things that are being discussed?
Yes, and a couple of the legislators that responded to me, one said something about, well, you can go out for an override. It's not one of the ones that we're meeting with. And, my response back was, it doesn't tend to be successful here. The other person came back with a per pupil funding number, which was not accurate. So, again, it's really clear that they don't understand the dilemma and the specific circumstances that the CCUSD is in, and that's why I'm really excited just to get in front of them so they can hear what we are working with in our district. So you've got a lot of stuff here.
Yes. Thank President Hatcher.
Thank you for that. Item 5, number 5, action consent. Is there a motion to approve number 5, action consent as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve number 5, action consent as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The motion carries. Number 5, action consent is approved as presented. All right, so we'll take the couple of fives in order. 5.2 was pulled. Human resource items presented by Ms. Marcy Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you. President Hatcher, members of the board. I move that the governing board approve the human resource items as presented.
So moved.
Questions?
Second.
Okay. Yep. Questions? Sorry. Questions or discussion?
On our listing, obviously, the board listing, it showed a couple of our staff that was noted about contracts not returned. What was the deadline for contracts to be returned back to the district office?
The Member Brown, the deadline was today for our certified teachers to return their contracts. So the ones that you have on the list here that say contract not returned, they rejected their contracts. So we knew that they would not be signing and returning their contracts.
Okay. So what's the plan moving forward then this week as we get contracts back? I'm sure you're working with the principals to see what kind of staffing issues that we're going to have if we need to start looking to hire for next school year.
Yes, that is correct, Member Brown. The principals have been given information for the last several days about who's returning contracts. What we've asked them to do is please reach out to those teachers who have not returned their contracts, have a conversation with them. Did they just forget? Were they out of town? Or are there some issues that they need to discuss in order to decide whether they want to sign those contracts? So the principals have been having those conversations the last several days. We did see a significant amount of contracts returned over the weekend, and we are waiting. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to give the teachers, some of them, maybe after school, or they had sports that they were going to, and take another look at that list in the morning. Then we will work with the principals, do some recruiting things for to get some qualified candidates in here and see what we need to do to get the positions filled. But we're very optimistic. We've had quite a few candidates, quite a few positions filled so far. And I think once I've identified where we have those openings, we'll be able to take care of them.
Have there been significantly more than the 4 that are on here that haven't returned contracts?
No, we're not seeing, Member Busby, we are not seeing a significant amount, not an alarming exodus at all. And the majority of them have been returned. So we have a handful still that are outstanding, but as far as rejected contracts, no, I'm not seeing a whole lot of them. We're very thankful for that.
Well, but we also have what I would say a sizable number of resignations and retirements, so they wouldn't be returning their contracts either way.
That is correct, Member Brown, and we will be addressing that with our HR team and identifying how we get those positions filled. But like I said, we've been looking at applications already, the ones that we knew ahead of time that were retiring, and start filling some of those positions. You'll see some hires on here as well when we come to you next board meeting.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions?
President Hatcher, if I may, I wanted to make some introductions. Oh, you still have to vote on it, right?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so hearing none, it's been moved and seconded to approve item 5.2, human resource items, as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 5.2 is approved as presented.
Okay, President Hatcher, I'd like to introduce a few of our new leaders. I'd like to invite Mr. Mitchell Gregg to come up to the microphone. We're excited to announce Mr. Gregg as the AP, Assistant Principal of Student Activities at Cactus Shadows High School. He's a lifelong learner who is passionate about helping students find their purpose. He grew up in the Northwest. He attended high school in a suburb of Seattle and went to college in Oregon. While in college, he played both basketball and baseball. I know, shocker, right? He was fortunate after college to be selected by the Oakland Athletics to play in their minor league system. After his professional athletic career, he was drawn to giving back to the game that he loved. As a lifelong learner, he received his master's degree. He became a teacher for 15 years. In the last 10 years, he's been the department lead, which is pretty outstanding. He served on a variety of district and site-based leadership teams in the Tempe Unified School District during that time. That helped to prepare him for his leadership role. He led his school in the implementation of professional learning communities, the International Baccalaureate Program, and he led the district in the transition to the middle years of the International Baccalaureate program. He's a strong advocate for student activities and campus staff involvement to provide students and staff with dynamic activities that will forever connect the students and the staff. So congratulations, Mr. Gregg, and welcome.
Thank you, guys. I want to first thank Dr. Monroe for giving me this opportunity. I'm really appreciative of this. Nancy and Patty, it was great taking it easy on me in the interview process, and Ms. Barella. So I really appreciate the opportunity. I want to thank my wife, who's back here, my 4 kids, and my mom. So it's been, a long journey, and I really appreciate the opportunity. And I look forward to adding to this wall of excellence in the future here and being part of the team. So thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Kristen, can you give us a wave in the back? His wife and their 4 beautiful kids, Delaney, Ella, Sophia, and Sawyer. Are they back there? Girls, you want to give us a wave? Welcome. We are glad to have you. I'd also like to introduce Dr. Frank Hendrickson. Dr. Hendrickson, if you want to come up to the mic. Dr. Hendrickson will be joining us from the Chandler Unified School District, where he currently serves as an elementary school principal and a principal lead for the district. He previously served as an assistant principal and a principal in the Higley Unified School District. He earned his doctorate degree from NAU, and he's played an instrumental role in supporting public education throughout the state of Arizona. Listen to this. He previously served as the president of the Elementary Education Division for the Arizona School Administrators Association across the state, and he has spent time on Capitol Hill in D.C. advocating for education in Arizona. To help him better prepare to become an HR director, he currently serves as a member of the Teacher Certification Advisory Committee for the Arizona Department of Ed, and he's on the Program Advisory Committee for the American College of Education. He currently was also on the Arizona School Personnel Administration Association Personnel Academy. Boy, can you say that 3 times fast. In his spare time, Dr. Hendrickson enjoys spending time with his wife, who's a middle school teacher in the back here, and their 12-year-old twin daughters. Are they back there, girls? Frank will have to tell us their names. And as a family, they enjoy doing anything with the outdoors, including skiing, camping, hiking, and paddleboarding. Frank's excited to be joining the one team here in Cave Creek Unified. Congratulations, Dr. Hendrickson.
First, I'd like to thank President Hatcher, Governing Board, Dr. Monroe, and Cabinet for this very exciting opportunity. In the last few weeks, in talking with Dr. Monroe and researching this community, you guys got a lot of great things going, a lot of pride in your schools, and I'm excited to be a part of that and support all personnel within our district, all levels of employee class groups, and really focus on that employee excellence as far as that one team initiative. So I do need to thank again my support team, my wife and my 2 wonderful children, Ansley and Chloe, who are very hungry, but they're holding in there. And I have a few students that came to support me. So Mr. Gregg's kids happen to go to my school. So when they walked in, I said, "Holy cow, cat's out of the bag." So they'll find out tomorrow. So, but I'm very, very excited to be a part of the Cave Creek team and working with this wonderful governing board and the very amazing principals that you have as well. So thank you very much for the support.
Thank you, and welcome. Okay, the next item up is 5.4, disposal of items, presented by Ms. Marcy Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that the governing board approve the disposal items as presented.
So moved.
Questions or discussion?
Second.
Oh, sorry. Gosh. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Questions or discussion?
Ms. Rodriguez, on the first page, you have a rather large list. I believe it's 31 laptops. Can you tell us how are we replacing these at the moment? Obviously, if these 31 go away, do we have 31 in our back pocket somewhere, or what's the swap out?
Well, President Hatcher, members of the board, that is one of the items that we had on our bond initiative. And so we have had to look at alternative funding sources. We knew that we have over 2,000 of our Chromebooks that are going to be outdated. They're still usable, but they're not upgradable. Now, these aren't even part of those 2,000. Those 2,000 we're still babying, and we've upgraded them to as far as we can get them. So, to answer the question, Member Brown, of how we're going to replace these, some of the monies that we've received from ESSER have been earmarked to replace technology, but we've also gone out to our partners at the Kiwanis. And we've asked the Kiwanis, Ms. Scott and Dr. Jensen have put a proposal together, presented that to the Kiwanis. We're waiting to hear back whether they will fund the replacement of our outdated laptops.
How much of the ESSER money has been earmarked for technology?
We have about $250,000 that we've earmarked for technology.
And that's going toward, like, devices?
Chromebooks for our students
So
that
we
are much needed for their testing.
We need about $750,000 for devices?
Member Busby, that is correct.
Any other comments?
This list is just laptops, so this doesn't include the Chromebook list, correct?
That is correct, because those Chromebooks are still working. We are still utilizing them. We needed all of the Chromebooks available to us when we did our testing for our students these last few weeks. So we were able to get them to the point where we can use them for testing.
And then on the third, I believe it's the third page, grounds equipment, about 2/3 of the way down, we list a mobile mini container. Is that something that was that the one that was damaged in the storm and got flipped over 56th Street? Or is this a different container? Is it something that we could sell instead of just?
I have Mike Santina here. Mr. Santina, could you address that question, please?
President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe. The mobile mini, there's several of them out there, and there's no asset tags on them, so we're not sure what one that is. They're all here except the one that was damaged. Most of them are at the baseball field. There's one at the Fine Arts Center, and then there's, I think there's one at a small one, I think, behind the district office over here. But there's not an asset tag that we can actually find.
So is this something that we could sell? Or is this, I mean, how are you going to dispose of a container?
I think it's gone. That one went missing.
Oh.
It blew over the fence, and then it was.
Oh, so this is the one off that was at the baseball field at
that's
56th
the one we couldn't
Street?
find.
Okay. All right. And then, Mr. Santina, while you're there at the podium, I'll just shoot you another quick question. Can you give us a little bit of background on the last page? We're talking about the Sonoran Trails Middle School marquee sign. It says it was purchased in October of 2007, but it's too old and cannot be repairable, and we are going to replace it. Can you give us a little idea of how we're going to pay to replace that, or what's going on with that?
The school actually, Jill would be able to answer the funding portion. It's just been, we've repaired it and repaired it and repaired it, and they just said it's gone to the point where we can't get parts for it anymore.
Okay. All right.
Turn your mic on. There you go.
There we go. Is that better? Yes. I can actually answer that. They took it to their site council, and they're going to utilize some of their tax credit, as we're still able this year to utilize some of that for capital. So they're going to be able to utilize some of their tax credit to repair and replace that marquee that is no longer repairable.
And this is the sign that's up on the building, right? So we're
It
going to
is.
replace, so that's going to be a total replace, not a repair.
It is. They brought out the original installer and had them review it and look to see if it is even repairable, and it's not.
Okay.
So we're going to have to replace it.
And then there's enough tax credit money at Sonoran Trails to cover that? Or are we going to have to lean on some M&O somewhere?
At this point, there is enough
Okay.
tax credit to replace it. And again, we're able to use that one-time monies to replace that capital item through the legislative statute.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Mr. Santina.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, it's been moved and seconded to approve item 5.4 as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. The motion carries. Item 5.4 is approved as presented. Next item up, 5.7, monthly enrollment report, presented by Ms. Marcy Rodriguez.
Thank you, President Hatcher and members of the board. This item is not require board action. This is information only, and this is regarding our monthly enrollment reports that we share with the governing board every month.
So we really don't need to move to accept, since it's information.
Yes, President Hatcher, that is correct.
It's a report. Okay, well,
I've noticed, and obviously this is not unique to public schools in the state, but our enrollment keeps slipping little by little, little by little. It's like, we're bleeding out slowly. 9 out of the last 10 months, we've had negative ending enrollment in our monthly packets. And the only month that we didn't have a loss of students, we were even. I think it was 27 came into the classes and 27 left. So my concern, obviously, enrollment is kind of what drives a big part of what drives the financing bus. And I think we've gone long enough with the losses, and I've not seen anything that's going to spark any increases. Compared to this time a year ago, we're down 346 students. Compared to this time 2 years ago, in 2020, we're down 634 students. That's a whole elementary school plus. And the trend is what's bothering me. And I don't know, there's not an answer tonight, obviously. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I just want it known that I don't know how we can stop the flood of loss, of the student loss, because I haven't seen it, like I said, 10 months. It just keeps dwindling down. So is it still a lot of people homeschooling? Have we lost a huge chunk to charter schools, to the private schools? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is at the moment. So I just wanted to point that out, that I'm concerned about this, and I don't know if there's even a plan to address it.
Member Brown, I would like to respond, since we were both at the business partner breakfast this morning, and this can get disheartening. And I know this does not include our preschools, which actually was a huge up, that they actually had to open more schools. And to me, if we can keep our kids in those preschools to then feed our other schools, sounds like a great start. I think there's a lot of competition with school choice, but it was actually hopeful in that meeting that we're sitting in this morning.
At 7 preschools at a maximum of 20 or 22 students, I mean, that's a start, but that's not making up for 634 loss of enrollment from 2 years ago.
Yeah, Member Brown, members of the board, I'll just make a quick comment, and Dr. Jensen might be able to jump in. This is exactly, Member Brown is right, this is a critical issue. And in my meetings with superintendents, we are all trying to figure this out. When Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, Deer Valley are down by 1,700, 1,900, 2,000 kids, and we're down, like Member Brown has pointed out, this is not unique to Cave Creek Unified School District, and the board's very well aware, just nationwide and Arizona-wide public schools. The pandemic has really disrupted public school enrollment. And Dr. Jensen can talk about some of the trends. Obviously, we're focusing on our kindergartners, our preschoolers, our capture rate. We're trying to tell our story through social media. Our principals are awesome, giving tours to families that move in. We want to be the schools of choice for people. However, it's very challenging when there's a lot of choices for people, especially up here, private schools that can be afforded through families. So we're trying to be very creative and think out of the box so our families know the wonderful things that happen in our schools and with our principals. And Dr. Jensen, do you want to speak to, the board's aware, one of the things we started doing this year early on is when a student withdraws, that student's family gets a phone call. they get a phone call here to say, and Patty can talk about the questions that we ask them because we want to know. Sort of like when we interview employees who leave the district. That exit survey. We want to know from those families, where are you going? Why are you leaving? Is there something we can help you with? How can we keep you? So Patty, do you want to maybe speak to some of those things that you've seen?
Absolutely, yes. President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe, I think Mrs. Walker said it very well that we're really focusing on those younger families. We're also really trying hard to spread the word. And so, we ask everybody here to spread the word as well, too. We don't want to keep the great things in Cave Creek a secret. And so that's one of the things that we've really been trying to flood social media with the positive message about Cave Creek. And so that they're not constantly hearing, there's always going to be somebody who's against something. We're not always going to agree. And so we've really been pushing hard on that. We do follow up with every single family who leaves. And so I have lists here of exactly where every student has gone. Many of them, it's out of state or out of the area, where we don't hardly need to continue with the exit survey. We still do, because we get good data from that to see if, what was your favorite part of our district. And they'll tell us, I will say, more often than not, it's teachers were their favorite part. And so we do get great data from that. If we see a concerning trend, then we step in and we intervene in whatever that may be. We make the principal aware if there is a trend. If there's just a one-off, then we just follow up with that person, thank them for their time, thank them for being in Cave Creek, and we always extend, I would say, an olive branch. We're here when you need us. We're here when you're ready to come back. And they always leave very positive from those interviews. And so they've been a great addition this year, and I think we've gotten a lot of good information from those.
And I want to add my spiel about funding, as I always do, because I really believe that's one of the root problems, and that funding yields program choice. It yields program availability. It allows us to increase staff, lower class size. There's competition on our borders, and it's difficult for us to compete with districts who receive funds. And Cave Creek is not what I would call a destination, because people are not coming up here for employment, whereas parents that live up here go down to Scottsdale, Phoenix, wherever. They're going down. And so we have some factors that impede what we can do. But I really believe that funding is at the root of the problem, and that's why I sound like a broken record when it comes to funding. So, okay, were we ready to move on? Number 6, old business, there is none. Number 7, new business. Item 7.1, award of RFP for auditing consultant services, presented by Ms. Marcy Rodriguez.
Thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board. A little bit of background. On February 14th, the governing board determined it was appropriate to use RFP process for audit consulting services. Using the RFP process gives the district the right to award a contract in which price is not the only determining factor. And on February 23rd, the RFP notification was released in secure.procurenow.com, which is really a nice way that we are doing RFPs now. Instead of getting boxes of paper responses, everything comes through electronically. So that was really nice. That's the first time we've used that process here in the district. And it was also advertised in the Phoenix Business Gazette. So the RFP was reviewed 70 times. The closing date for the RFP was March 10th, and 3 proposals were received. On the 16th, the evaluation committee met, scored the 3 proposals. The proposals were evaluated on the following criteria: understanding the audit services to be performed, the technical experience qualifications, audit timelines, and cost. The committee asked for a best and final offer from each of the firms to see if the cost could be reduced. That's a practice that I do on all the RFPs that I'm a part of. We find if you go back for a best and final, a lot of times they will come back. They really want your business, and they're going to give you a little bit more of a price break. So we were successful in getting the price reduced over $10,000 over the next 5 years. So this contract will begin with this fiscal year's audit. So looking at this year's financial information. And then we are asking that we have the option to renew up to 4 additional years. In accordance with School District Procurement Rule, R7-2-1031. So that is something that by state law we can do, is issue a 5-year renewable. And that means we'll come back to you and we'll ask you to renew, if we are happy with their services, to renew that every year up to that 5th year. It's been determined that the proposal submitted by Heinfeld Meach and Company, PC, met the criteria as stated in the RFP, and the price proposal was fair and reasonable. The evaluation committee was composed of myself, the CFO, Marcy Rodriguez, our business services manager, Susan Rees, and Lori Hay, our administrative assistant to the chief financial officer. So I move that the governing board approve the award for the RFP number 22-01-26 for auditing consulting services to Heinfeld Meach and Company, PC.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Questions?
Ms. Rodriguez, you said the RFP viewed 70 times. We only had 3 proposals. I know the law has changed, because it used to be you couldn't use the same audit firm. And at the last meeting, the March 14th meeting, Ms. Jill Shaw was here from Heinfield and Meach and made the comment that this was her, I believe it was her 5th year. We have used Heinfield and Meach now for 5 years. Is there a concern, or should we have a concern about using the same auditing firm for, well, at least 1 more year, if not the next 4 after that? Only because a different firm, we'd have a different set of eyes looking at our financial accounting procedures, and that maybe because she's been here doing this for 5 years, and she said it's like a 9-month process, that she's gotten too comfortable, and maybe we would miss something if we continued with Ms. Shaw at Heinfield and Meach.
Member Brown, I understand your concerns. I personally do not feel that there would be any type of oversight that I would be concerned about with that organization. That organization has been doing school district audits for a very, very long time. And although Ms. Shaw is the manager over the district's audit, they have different members of the team come in. So it's always being looked at by different people. Although they may be the same firm, they are different people that come in. So we don't have the same auditor over and over again. So we'll have a new lead next year from the lead that we had this year. They also have a very strict guidelines of what they must look at.
Right.
And as you saw with the compliance questionnaire, there was some on there that they said no, we didn't meet. They always are held to that standard. So I have no concerns whatsoever that they will not do a thorough job in our audits.
I'm not questioning their services, because yet, like you said, they have been around for a very long time and have done the audit. I just was worried about having somebody that maybe has gotten too familiar with the Cave Creek district, and like I said, a different set of eyes is not a bad thing to look at when you're looking at auditing and financials. But if you're comfortable, then I will defer to your expertise.
Thank you, Member Brown.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, it's been moved and seconded to approve item 7.1, award of RFP for auditing consultant services as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 7.1 is approved as presented. Item 8, future agenda items. Let me get my little thing. So this was submitted by me and presented by me, and it reads, from the perspective of the ESS department, what are the challenges? What do they feel caused these challenges? What suggestions do they have to remedy these issues going forward? What would the department like to see done differently? Recommended action is that I move that the governing board vote to approve placement on an upcoming agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to place item 8.1 on a future agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 8.1 is approved as presented. All righty. Item 9.1. Okay, I'm watching the clock. We're good. This is presented by me. It's adjourn business meeting to go into executive session. The recommended action is that I move that the governing board adjourn the business meeting to go into executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve item 9.1, adjourn business meeting to go into executive session as presented. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained. Motion carries. 9.1 is approved as presented. Before everyone leave, you will be asked to leave in a second, but we'll read the next one and then you can leave. Item 10.1, executive session. Presented by me, the recommended action is I move that the governing board close the business meeting to convene an executive session pursuant to ARS Section 28-431.03, A3 and A4, for the purpose of seeking legal advice from the attorney for the public body and provide direction to the attorney regarding the superintendent's contract of employment. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to approve item 10.1, executive session as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
You already made the motion to adjourn the business meeting, and now you're asking for a vote. I don't think you can do that, Member Hatcher.
You don't think I can do what?
You adjourned the meeting.
We're not in executive session, though.
You adjourned the business meeting. Your
Can
item
I get
10.
clarification because I...
Sure.
Is that on?
We have to go in executive session in front of the public, don't we?
Yes, but you adjourned the meeting, so your item 10.1, you can't put that out there. The meeting's already been adjourned to go into executive session.
Madam President, members of the governing board, in my opinion, the governing board can adjourn the meeting and then call for the executive session, and then the action is intended later on in the evening to reconvene the business meeting and then act on the one business item that is part of the board meeting. So I do not think that the actions that the governing board has taken are in violation of the open meeting law or the relevant provisions.
And for the board to know, this appeared confusing to me when I read our board book, so I sought counsel to determine if we could just proceed through like I just did.
Correct. So it's similar in nature to when you adjourn a public hearing and then you reconvene in the board meeting and then you go back to the board business.
Okay. So
I will disagree with that, and I think any action taken now will be invalid due to open meeting law violation. So,
well, if you have that concern, you can
I will
reconvene
contact the
business
Attorney
meeting.
General's office in the morning and make sure, because your prior recommendations to the board got us into an open meeting law violation 2 years ago, and here we go down the same path again with the same counsel giving us what I would consider poor guidance, and that's all I'll say.
I'm going to reconvene the meeting.
That's fine.
So, I'm moving that the governing board reconvene the public meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to reconvene the public meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain.
Abstain.
Motion carries. We are back in public meeting.
And now you need a motion to go into executive session again.
Okay. All right.
But you don't need to read, are you reading 10.1? Because we've already voted on item 9.1.
But we came back into a public meeting, so.
But is Member Hatcher going to do the same thing? We're going to have a vote, and then she's going to read 10.1 again? And we'll be right back to where we are.
I'm going to make a motion to move into executive session.
And not end the business meeting.
Correct.
So we're back in public meeting right now. What do you suggest I do?
I suggest that you ask for a motion to convene an executive session pursuant to ARS 38431.A3 and A4 to receive legal advice from the attorney for the public body and direct the attorney regarding the superintendent's contract.
And after we vote, the room clears.
Will clear. Correct.
But they hear this vote.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. All right. I move that the governing board close the business meeting.
No.
No.
Just convene the executive
Just
session.
convene the executive session. Convene the executive session pursuant to ARS Section 28-431.03 A3 and A4 for the purpose of seeking legal advice from the attorney for the public body and provide direction to the attorney regarding the superintendent's contract of employment. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to move into executive session as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Abstain. Motion carries 4-1. We will enter into executive session, and now everyone needs to leave. The recording in the boardroom will need to be turned off. Are we going into the other room? Or Mr. Fortney, a moment.
Yeah, they've been here for a while. I know, but. Yeah.
So we'll, do we need to wait for Marcy? We can just go ahead and start. Okay. All right, we ready? All right, item 11.1, reconvene the business meeting. I move that the governing board reconvene the business meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve item 11.1, reconvene the business meeting as presented. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 11.1 is approved as presented. Number 12, new business. 12.1, approval of contract of employment for Superintendent Court Monroe, presented by me, Beth Hatcher. Alrighty. The recommendation is that the governing board approve the contract of employment for Superintendent Court Monroe as presented based on the amendments or
Correct.
presented?
Presented in executive session and amended.
Okay, presented in executive session as amended. And amended. All right, is there a
Second.
second? Okay. Comments? I have a big, long thing to read prior to my vote. And it probably is going to take me a couple minutes, so you can plug your ears or whatever.
Will this be a roll call vote, please?
Yep, it will be a roll call vote.
Thank you.
So here we go. So for me, my question was, is there value received from the costs associated with having Dr. Monroe as our superintendent? I believe there is. There are costs associated with all programs and employees, but value must be considered within the CCUSD and what has occurred during his tenure. Dr. Monroe is interested in the long-term sustainability of the CCUSD, and that includes making difficult decisions in the short run to achieve long-term and lasting goals and outcomes for our students. It's clear to me that he desires to establish a firm foundation on which to build this district rather than providing short-term solutions. That takes courage and is unpopular to people who are adverse to change and people who are more interested in preserving the status quo no matter the long-term outlook. I base this on the strategic plan. Number one, student achievement, which is the focus of a school district's administration and board. We've been voted the best school district in the North Valley for 3 years in a row. Obviously, a lot of people are happy with what the CCUSD is doing for our students. Our staff produces student success as evidenced by test scores, graduation rates, accomplishments, and service to the community, all without the support of bonds and overrides, and a punitive state funding formula, which leave us with scarce resources. I also recognize that test scores need to go up, so I'm not naive that way. Dr. Monroe is also looking for ways to increase staff pay so that we can be competitive in order to provide the best teachers for our students. The reorganization provides for equal attention to our middle through high schoolers, something we did not have prior to Dr. Monroe's reorganization. This is necessary if we're to send our graduates to college, technical careers, or any other career where they can achieve personal success. Dr. Monroe set priorities based on graduation requirements and then worked out concentrally to the nice-to-have category in that chart he gave us a long time ago. This is necessary to focus our staffing and spending needs. Under Dr. Monroe's leadership, the district is pivoting to a PLC format where teachers have time to collaborate, to review and share data for the purpose of implementing best practices to better serve our students. The CCUSD has remained open from September 2020 to this day. Dr. Monroe supported that decision because it's best for students' learning. Employee excellence. Dr. Monroe has barbecued on campuses to build relationships with staff and to give back to the staff who work so hard for our students. Horseshoe Trails Principal Aaron Pettinato was named the 2021 Elementary School Principal of the Year under Dr. Monroe's tenure. The employee evaluation is being updated to assist teachers with their teaching practice. It's a tool used to improve teaching practices. We recently had a very lovely Teacher of the Year catered dinner, which I've already talked about. Proper implementation of PLCs should enhance a teacher's practice and consequently benefit students. The third item, safe environment culture. CCUSD provides technology with proper safety nets in place. We continue to implement PBIS and Second Step, which are programs designed to empower students to take responsibility for their behavior in a positive and kind manner. Effective operations, resources, and systems. In keeping with our community's desire to have their children be technologically savvy and prepared for the world upon graduation, we attempt to provide hardware and software which enhances student learning. Community partnerships, the last one. Dr. Monroe networks with the many business and community partners within our school district. He has met with and wishes to continue to meet with legislators who influence education legislation, and in particular, those who can have a direct impact on the state funding formula, which currently presents hardships for the CCUSD and its students and staff. Dr. Monroe aggressively sought to communicate with stakeholders to pass a bond for the benefit of the CCUSD. His business partner breakfasts have been extremely well attended, and they have provided community networking opportunities and a chance for the business partners to get a glimpse into the activities and programs we offer our students. Under Dr. Monroe, 2 new preschools are available. Our preschools will become the gateway to kindergarten, which will increase enrollment. Dr. Monroe continually seeks to obtain funding for the CCUSD so that we can be as competitive as our surrounding districts. Increased funding equates to increased staffing, classes, and programs, all of which our students can find in surrounding districts that pass bonds, overrides, and are not subject to the equalization funding formula. Increase in salary. My research shows that the median Arizona superintendent salary is about 166. That's all the districts, poor and ones that are well-funded. Per the RAND report, approximately 25% of superintendents will not return. That report states that hundreds are considering leaving the profession. He's the CEO of an organization and should be paid at a higher level. That's how business works. Last point. When an organization is resetting, it needs the opportunity to implement the plan, monitor and adjust, and have time to achieve results. I am voting aye because I believe he is laying the proper long-term foundation for the benefit of our students and community at large. Member Busby, do you want to speak to the issue?
Sure. I believe that this exercise should have followed an evaluation so that we could demonstrate transparency to our community and demonstrate that we have effectively done our due diligence and have made thoughtful decisions on what we're doing. And since we're not following that process, I am voting no.
Member Brown?
Dr. Monroe's current contract is in effect through June 30th of 2023. The superintendent sent his contract proposal to the board on March 15th before he left for spring break. But he sent proposal without using the legal counsel that he had requested a waiver at the December 13th, 2021 board meeting. I had asked at that meeting if the board had initiated any discussion about extending a contract, why we would be voting for a waiver at this time. That is agenda item number 5.9. It's in the approved minutes. Anybody can go back and look at it. In my feeling, the vote to extend is not right at this time, since we did not perform evaluation to review current district goals as stated in the current contract. This evaluation is to be done in June. That's policy CBI and CBI-R. I have several concerns of how this came down tonight. But what I'm sad about is how this is going to affect our teachers and our students. I mentioned in the earlier part of the meeting my concerns about the enrollment decline. 9 months out of 10, enrollment has gone down. We haven't seen a plan or any action or any positive. The only month that it didn't go down, it stayed flat. We talked about test scores. They're testing right now. We don't even know what the results are going to be. We can't judge how the district is doing as a whole without those test results. Loss of teachers and staff. I am saddened to see, and this is public knowledge in the board books, anybody can go back and look, from the October 11th, 2021 board meeting to tonight, this district has had 46 teachers resign, 5 more teachers retire, and 4 teachers not return their contract. That's 54 teachers since October. The loss of the teaching experience will affect our students immensely. On top of that, since October, we've also had 9 administration positions resign. We've even had one resign twice after she was asked to stay. I don't see why this could not have been postponed till after the evaluations in June, as in the current contract. And I am sad that it has come to this. My vote to approve a contract extension is no.
I am voting aye. This contract ended up being the same that he was going to get starting in July 1st of this year. And really, it was just an extension of a 2-year, making it 3, which I think shows skin in the game, for lack of better words. And he has proposed a strategic plan, and I think he needs the 3 years to try to get where we're trying to go. So I appreciate Dr. Monroe actually wanting to stay longer with the same terms.
Okay, so yeah, we've heard a lot about some of the numbers, and I think that President Hatcher wrapped up a lot of it very well. I'm just going to go on to say that there are a lot of things that are being presented. You can always look for a scapegoat, and I know that we're not other districts, we are CCUSD, but the facts are facts. Enrollment is declining everywhere. This is not one person's fault. And we have, in my district that I work in now, which is a little smaller than this one, we have I have a letter from the superintendent stating that elementary school districts are losing students constantly because of the proliferation of charter schools. The other things going along with that, in COVID, we are working on getting that back up. We have seen the things even again tonight that Dr. Monroe and the leadership are working on to get those numbers up. This is an active thing that they have been talking about for quite a while. Teacher retention, it boggles my mind. Yes, the numbers are big that the people are leaving, but it actually boggles my mind that so many people are actually still staying here. This district pays so far below whatever other districts do that it makes sense that they are looking elsewhere. This profession has been treated very poorly by our legislature, and continues to be that way. Again, this is not something that we can do with the funding that we are currently under. This, again, is not something that we can blame on one person. So there is that. Seemed like I had more, but I'm losing track of it. But basically, I have seen a good direction. I have seen good communication. I have seen a good idea about what needs to be done, and even when it has been difficult, cutting back the Mandarin program, things that were done because they had to be done, and there were very few choices that had to be done, and situations were done for the long term here. So I will vote yes on this contract extension, knowing that we will be able to evaluate Dr. Monroe in June and see how everything is going then, and things that fall out that way through the performance pay will fall out that way. But right now we need to lock up a good person that's doing a good job, and I think this is the time to do it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So the motion carries. Item 12.1, approval of contract of employment for Superintendent Court Monroe, passes 3-2. Item 13.1, upcoming calendar events presented by Dr. Court Monroe.
Yeah, President Hatcher, members of the board, Friday is our spring recess, so we wish our staff and our students a happy spring recess or a happy Easter or whatever, however they may spend this weekend. The Inspire Excellence Awards are at May 11th at the Fine Arts Center at 6 p.m. And then, as the board's been communicated with, we'll have our 8th grade celebrations on the 18th. We'd love to have the board there if they're able to make that. There'll be 4 half-hour celebrations, similar to last year, where parents can choose which session their kids want to go to. That was really popular. And then our commencement, our high school graduation, will be on May 19th at Grand Canyon. And Mrs. Scotto will continue to let the board know the details on parking and all that jazz. That'll be at 7 p.m. on May 19th at Grand Canyon.
All righty. Number 14, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.